Hey everybody, I am back. Sorry for no video last week, but I wound up having a family trip and then a work trip really close to one another and decided to take a little break and not stress myself out about it. But fortunately for you, throughout this week, I'm going to record some extras to make up for the delay last week and not having a video last week. So be on the lookout. And I had a really awesome reading month for July. I wound up reading 8 books and I'm really excited about that. So that brings my reading goal. I set a goal to read 30 books for the year and I am at 25. So super excited. And so I'm going to break these down, my wrap up, into 2 parts. So the booktubeathon I found almost last minute this year and participated, and I read 4 books for it, which I was really proud of myself that I got 4 books done in a week with still needing to work and trip for the family. So really happy about the 4 books read, and I think next year lesson learned is I'm going to pay attention and just reserve a week off, and then I can have a lot more fun with the booktubeathon in 2018. So first book up was, of course, The Witchwood Crown by Tad Williams, which I will put in a link below. I did a separate review for it. So this book is the continuation of the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy from Tad Williams that he wrote many years ago. And actually, oh, they're right here. So this is the story about 30 years after those books take place. We pick up with Simon and Miriamel and Benedict and all of the good characters. We've got some really great introductions, but see my link if you're wanting to see a non-spoiler review of the book. And again, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. So there you have it. I did take on another work trip. I took a good old trusty Agatha Christie, Death on the Nile. I hadn't read, which this is, I believe it's her, I'm not gonna try, Poirot. Mr. Poirot winds up going on a vacation on a boat on the Nile, and the mystery ensues after a murder. So this is good, classic Agatha Christie. This one I wound up, it starts with a pretty obvious who you think whodunit, but in good old Agatha Christie fashion, how she throws things in, you're just not sure whether or not you can go with your first hunch. She makes pretty much everyone a suspect. You start questioning who all is a suspect. But with what the final verdict was with this book, I didn't rate this one as high. But I did get this done, I would say probably in about a day, maybe 2 sittings, since part of it was done on an airplane, had to get off and go and do work. But this one read pretty fast for Agatha Christie, and I really enjoyed it. The next book is, I am really starting to enjoy fairy tale retellings, and there are some great ones in young adult literature, but I found I've got to be careful because some of them, they just, for some reason, I've wound up being disappointed because they just haven't gone in depth as much as the story I would like. For example, I've got Heartless up here by Marissa Meyer, which was the story about how the Queen of Hearts became so off with her head chop happy. And the main reason I didn't like it is I really thought that one should be a trilogy. The ending is heart-wrenching and just hurts at your soul. And for me on that one, it didn't have enough oomph for that heart-wrenching ending story. It needed more to justify the great ending that she gave that. But I'm digressing a little bit. But so there are a few misses with that. However, I read The Wish Granter, and this one was wonderful. It is a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. It's about a brother and a sister. The brother makes the wish with Rumpelstiltskin to protect his sister, and then pretty much signs over the kingdom. And it's that working through trying to outwit Rumpelstiltskin through that process. This one was wonderful. I believe C.J. Redwine does, this is her second book. This is their second book. I'm not sure. Is there? Yeah, it's a her. Sorry guys. My bad. This is her second one. She did a retelling of Snow White as well, I believe, which was her first one, which I have not read that one, but I am now more than likely, this one sounded more appealing to me than the Snow White retelling, and but I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Let's see how well this works. But the end papers, the map in this is just gorgeous artwork, which I am assuming, and I'm making a guess, and please don't hate on me if my guess is wrong, but my guess is that the Snow White retelling also is taking place in this same world. But that's my guess. I hope I'm right. Don't hate me if I'm not. But this book, I think, probably was 4 out of 5 stars. I gave on Goodreads probably more like a 5 1/4, if we want to get really particular. So that was the second book I read. The third. I'm losing count. I do that. I do stuff like that. The fourth book was The Family Plot. And this one sounded really good. And what I really enjoyed, this was really interesting. So an elderly lady goes and pretty much sells off her estate to a group of junkers. And the daughter of the owner goes, and they are going to this house to tear down and salvage what they can to sell off of the property. And I really enjoyed that perspective of ghost stories and about houses from the junker were tearing out yet trying to salvage it, and there's a mystery surrounding it. The daughter starts to question things with how fast the owner had come and sold it. It seems like it sold for really cheap. I had some high hopes for this. My reading in thrillers / borderline horror, I would say more ghost stories. If it tends to stay more just ghost story, I'm okay. And I did have some high hopes because, number one, this was published by Tor Publishers, which is traditionally a science fiction fantasy publisher. And I thought maybe I would have finally a good ghost story, as the first line of it is that Sherry Priest is our new Queen of Darkness. Time to kneel before her, lest she take our heads. As let down again, guys. There was not enough suspense. There was not enough terror. I was reading this in a literal bookstorm. In a literal storm, and nothing. No jumping at the thunder. No jumping at the lightning. No, oh my God, there's a ghost behind me. Nothing. So, to the publishing industry, if you're gonna put these notes that they are up there with the greats with Stephen King, and that Stephen King has competition, and that they're the Queen of Darkness, and your life is going to be changed forever, you better damn well make sure my life's gonna change forever, and I'm gonna jump and be scared and get a nightmare. Because I'm not. And the sad thing is I get nightmares easy. I've told you guys this. I think I probably, I don't think I gave this a 2-star. I think I might have given it a 3-star on Goodreads. More like probably 2.5 is what this is. But again, it was just the suspense had let me down. I was not gripped enough. I was not impressed with the ghost. I was not impressed with what happened. But I did like the story. I liked the background. I loved the thought of tearing down the house, and that tearing down of the house was what was aggravating the spirits. I enjoyed that part. But again, guys, if you're going to brag like that about an author in horror and ghost stories, you better make sure you can scare Jennifer. Okay? All right. Rant done. Okay. So now let's move on to my Booktubeathon reads. And so there she had some certain challenges. So I'll tell you which ones that I met and I got accomplished. Almost all of these books, actually every single book, yeah, I'm looking at my list here. I did read in a day. So I had 4 books that I covered the Read a Book in a Day challenge, every single one. So I'm going to start with the final 2. Like I said, I was planning to read, and if you do want to go back and review my Booktubeathon to be read list, I'll put the link for that video below as well too. So sorry, digressing again. But the first one was Nicholas St. North and the Battle of the Nightmare King. And this one, the kiddo and I listened on audiobook as we drove out to my dad's house for the weekend. And guys, this is wonderful. So these books are, again, the stories of, if you've watched The Rise of the Guardians, and if you haven't watched The Rise of the Guardians, go immediately and go watch Rise of the Guardians. It is a wonderful movie. Wonderful. But within it, it's the story of Jack Frost and what he is the guardian of for children. And in this movie, you also have Santa Claus, you have the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and the Sandman. And so these books are where William Joyce goes back and tells the origin stories of Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and the Sandman. And so Nicholas St. North is the first book. And here we learn more about the Man of the Moon. Pitch has been the bad guy ever since. So in this book, we do learn a little bit more about Pitch and the original story, and who isn't the Man in the Moon, who is in the moon, and how he starts to have these callings for people. Nicholas St. North, this takes place in Russia, and he was a bandit before he went over and started to go into Santa Claus. The one thing I didn't like is you've got an inkling of why he is Santa Claus, but I'm hoping throughout the rest of the story there's a little bit more on how it didn't really answer why he started to give the gifts to the children and how the holiday of Christmas was established, which I was hoping a little bit for that. And that, I would say, was really the only thing I didn't enjoy with this book, but I really, really enjoyed this. This was a great fantasy, wonderful legends. You also learn about the legend of the compass. William Joyce developed a legend about the compass, and it was really heartwarming to me, that little legend that you get about the compass in this story. So I'm sure there's going to be like some things around Easter eggs and maybe the Sandman with dreams. I've got really good hopes. I'm very anxious to pick up the rest of these and read the rest of these books with the kiddos. They were just, and again, it's got the Yeti in it, and again, just wonderful, beautiful storytelling. And let me get in here too, because this one's got wonderful, see if I can find a good one here for you. It has wonderful, great illustrations throughout this book too. So that's probably the only letdown with having listened to it on audiobook for a read, is we weren't able to flip through the book as we did. But I can tell you this book's going to be picked up and reread in the future, so no qualms there. The next one was also an audiobook that I listened to on the way and on the drive too, and this was Hallelujah Anyway, Rediscovering Mercy. And this one I think I gave a 3 stars. It's good. It's more antecedents from Anne about where she has found mercy, and it's finding the mercy in the everyday things. How just something as issuing forgiveness, or in a situation not speaking up when you want to give your opinion, and how that can be a mercy. It was a good story. She made me cry at points, and I always appreciate that from a good self-help book. But overall, what I got disappointed was it didn't feel like there was an overall ending or closure to the story. For example, when I read Walking in the Dark last year, which I'm hoping to do probably more of a review, comparing Hallelujah Anyway to A Walk in the Dark. When I read that one last year, that one was very, very touching, and I felt had closure. You walked away with maybe more action that you can take after reading that book, where with Hallelujah Anyway, I don't really know if there's anything I need to change in my life to find the mercy, if that makes sense. So it was more I was missing a lesson, but they were still great stories. It was great. It felt like a conversation I was having with Anne that I can appreciate, that I was listening to her story and her life story, but it was more a talk about her story versus taking any action away. So I think that's more why I probably rated it more of a 3, versus I think if I remember correctly, I gave Learning to Walk in the Dark 5 out of 5 stars. The second book, I believe that one was my official read a book in a day. Nicholas St. North was a read a book outside, which I do count that we read outside, because somebody asked if reading in a car counted as reading outside, and they said yes, and we read it in the car. So yes, we read a book outside. the book, this next one was The Travels of Daniel Asher, and this book I read because the main character was very different from myself. He's an elderly man. He fought in World War II. Obviously, I didn't. Lives in France. I don't. I live in Kansas, and is an author. And I would like to be an author. I think that'd be really cool, but I'm not. I'm a little old IT auditor right now. So that's where he was different. I think this book was, again, a 3 out of 5 stars for me. It's about his nieces come to live with him, and she's trying to figure out this mystery. He is a supposed author, and there's some, is he really writing these? Is it something else? Where does he go? Does he really travel? What's going on? And there's a little bit of mystery around his writing process and his books, and she's trying to figuring him out as a person, and through all that, towards the end, she does get it. It was just, I think it was just more one of those books that this one wasn't my normal read. I'm very happy I read it. It's outside of my box. Was it the best book I've ever read in my life? No, a 3 is average. It was an average book. Again with this one, and I don't know what it was with finding books with pictures this go around, guys, but this one had just beautiful. It felt like you were carrying around a notebook and reading in somebody's notebook, just the pencil drawings that were in this book that really did add to the story and was very enjoyable. So it was a good book. Again, I read it in a day. I would say probably like 3 hours is all that took me. It was a book club book read that I didn't make 2 years and years ago, so I dug into my stash to get this one out, and again, happy I read it. It's an average read. It's a good read if you want something quick that's light and good and doesn't get too heavy, but is still a complete story. This will be it. One thing is I will say, if you do buy this edition, I don't know if any of the other editions have updated it, but when people are talking, the narrative is not in quotation marks, and it got a little bit hard to read with that. So heads up on that part with that book. And finally, one of the challenges was to read a hyped book, and for that one I read Midnight at the Electric. I've heard good things about Jodi Lynn Anderson, and this book has been very hyped on BookTube, and guys, it deserves the hype. I was a little concerned because this book is only 200 some pages. It's pretty thin for a book and what it was professing that it was going to do. So it's essentially 3 storylines, one of them taking place in Kansas in 2065, one storyline in 1919, and then one storyline in the 30s during the Dust Bowl. And this is what I've been looking for in a short book. There wasn't anything missing. I am 99% sure this book got a 5 out of 5 stars, probably like 4 3/4. But this book is deserving of the hype. So in 2065, there's a young girl. She is in Kansas, and she has been accepted to a program that is starting to colonize Mars. And she goes back to her family home in Kansas. She's got one relative left. She's not too sure how she's related to her, but she goes back for that final time before she gets sent off to Mars. And through that, with her relative, they find these old letters, and they start to put together the mystery of their family past and how this house came into their possession. What we know is that the world has flooded. My assumption was probably from ice caps melting, and now the capital of the United States is Wichita, Kansas. And I'm really interested. I want to see if there were things in there that makes me think that Jodi did more than just a Google search on Wichita, Kansas, or she really paid attention to the photos that she got back in a Google photo search, because some of her descriptions it felt like she had to have been in Wichita. I could put, and where she was sending the characters, I could see them in Wichita. I have specific locations in my mind where some of these buildings are in Wichita, right or wrong. But it made me think. And Jodi, if you would have put a reference to the Keeper of the Plains, it would have been 100% perfect. Maybe that's where I'm giving her the quarter point not being a true 5. I don't know. But Jodi, I appreciated it. From being a native Kansan, thank you for representing Kansas in a good, positive light. Her research around the Dirty 30s was accurate and spot on. Things that we do tell here in Kansas about some of those struggles, she hit. She she did her research with that, and then her story through the year for what happened was all interconnected and wonderful. They were told at the right intervals. It flowed together perfectly. This does need to get on your TBR list. You need to read this book. Each time has a Midnight at the Electric. The Electric is a circus that comes through during the 1930s scene, but even in the 1919s there's reference to something similar. And to me, the event in 2065, this is our main character heading to Mars. That's the new thing, the exciting thing, the thing that's supposed to save everything, that can fix everything. So each time period has something like that. So I am anxious. I have Jody Lynn's Tiger Lily on my bookshelf, and so I'll probably be picking it up a lot quicker after reading this and enjoying it so much. So sorry guys for probably the longer to be read list. Let me see if I didn't put these back down to hold them up all nice. Hang on. Oh, sorry, the other's just the fold, remember, but here we go with this, and just remember Tad Williams is in there too. So there was that is the wrap up for July. Like I said, thank you so much for understanding no posting last week, but I'm gonna hopefully make it up to you throughout this week and post some extra videos for you. So I hope you guys all have a great Sunday. Let me know what you're reading, what you think. Have any of you guys read these books? What's your opinion of them? Share it with me. Did I like one that you absolutely hated, or is there one you think you're gonna pick up? So stay tuned, especially for the video for why I don't make TBRs, and I hope to have a little fun interactive activity with you guys that maybe you can help me get over some of my apprehension with that. So have a wonderful Sunday, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!